Hello and welcome to Columbus Local Podcast. I'm Len D'Amico, and this is episode number 101. Tonight, it is just coming off an absolutely fabulous episode 100.
Oh, that was amazing. What a blast.
It was a blast. It was a blast, and it was such an honor to have so many people that came and hung out and helped us produce that episode and just celebrate what was going on with this scene in Columbus.
Yes, that was much fun.
And go ahead, Larz.
Well, I tried to pay people to come to this one, and just nobody was having it. After yours, they're like, we're kind of busy.
Brother,
it's Sunday night. Nobody goes out on Sunday. I'm feeling it too. Are you?
I'm feeling the weekend.
Like the last 2 weeks.
I am.
Last 2 weeks, which you've been a part of as well as. Whew.
Yes, let's go through that. But episode 101 is going to celebrate Larz Raymond as well. Okay, there's a special subject matter here, but also, Larz was the first episode, and it was most appropriate in conversations that 101 be Larz Raymond. And yes. I'm glad you're doing it, Larz. Thank you, man.
Dude, I appreciate it, man. We all do. It's
great
out. Being here. It's great hanging out. And you're not even charging me rent, so I feel pretty fortunate.
I'm not, and we've been hanging out for 3 days, man. It's been 3 days.
I'm feeling my age tonight, so I'm going to try and keep up. I really am.
3 days, Larz, after episode 100, which was
on a Sunday,
time
which blasted right into Monday, last week.
And it was
and I played the night before that with Toast last week.
It was a long work week, man. And we came into this weekend. So
right.
Yes,
right.
And in this weekend, coming into 101 with Larz Raymond. But this weekend, so what happened Friday? I can't even remember.
We had a lot of people here, which was going to be episode 101.
Yes.
And then you were exhausted from work, and I really dug into the vault. I've got stuff I can't even remember playing on stuff, so I did a lot of homework in this, and honestly, I'm happy that you wanted me to do this, because at one point I went into the vault and I just got some stuff out and took a picture. I didn't listen to it. There's stuff I haven't listened to. There's stuff you and I were listening to stuff. I don't have any recollection of that.
Oh my God!
But it was so
man.
Nice to go back and listen to. I just don't allow myself to do it. And for just once, it was like I just was. The day before I came over, I was trying to reacquaint myself with it before I could, reacquaint you with it or acquaint with it. So, it was just hours flew by at my house. I was just going through all this stuff, and it was like, wow, the '90s. Not just the '90s, but the '90s on High Street. That place. There were 21 places from German Village to Clintonville. And it's not that now. It's a lot different.
It's not the same.
We just basically lived there. There was so many places to play, so many places to go.
Wow.
It was great. It really was.
And your collection of music that we've spent the weekend kind of going through and walking down memory lane and,
right.
and kind of jarring the vibe of High Street during the years of what range of years are we saying again? Give or take?
I would say, for me, the thick of it would be 90. Into now, but
yeah.
It's thinned out. Now I'm not. I do play originals with Third Degree, but. Back then I was just playing original music. Most of my career was just playing original music, trying to find different types of music to play. Like, as you heard, the stuff I brought over, a lot of it was nothing
diverse,
but it was fun to do. I love a lot of different kinds of music, and I just always like to explore different stuff. I mean, I've got my stuff I like everyone else, But there was a lot of diverse stuff, and I didn't have kids then. We didn't have kids. My lovely wife Gabe's here somewhere. And we, back then you could play 4 nights a week.
Yes.
You could play 5.
Yes.
We would, yeah. I'd start on Wednesdays, and Thursdays were, kind of, you could get some stuff on Thursdays. And then either which band I was in, I would play in town on the weekend, or I would go on the road on the weekend. Just depend. Like, well, we'll get into some of that here in a little bit. But yeah, it was a wonderful time to play.
A wonderful time to play, and I would say that the representation of the CDs that we've spent the weekend on, going through Larz, and there's a cassette too.
And
we're
one cassette
we're going to talk about that demonstrates the diversity of what you're describing, right? Just
And High Street was diverse. I mean, listen, I'm not. This town's great. There's great musicians. I'm strictly speaking of the venues available for non-mainstream cover bands, which I'm in one. So I'm just saying there was different places to play. You just don't have that, and especially if you're going to be doing some of the stuff we listen to that's, not mainstream. There's,
independent.
I mean, there's some places,
Creative.
I start naming them, I'll forget something, but Dix is still there, but that's jazz, which is great. Yep. Ace of Cups has been just. That was great when Marcy doesn't know anymore, but she opened up that. And TJ's over there at Space Bar. They're having bands. Gosh, I don't know. Who else? I'm trying to think. Yeah.
Yeah, sweet. And the diversity of the bands, again, of what we've been listening to is so impressive. And a lot of people are still producing their own music in this town.
Oh, more
too.
than ever at this point. Yeah.
And it's amazing
with the modern technology and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
But there's nothing like going into a great studio. I'm kind of not into clutter, but once I got down into the vault and started seeing all the band T-shirts and posters and flyers, and actually having all these tangible, like discs, actually holding, like when we grew up with albums, right? You sat there, who produced it, who engineered it. Of course, Bob Ludwig mastered it, but he mastered everything. But he would just sit there, you weren't preoccupied, but it was nice to go back and have some physical. I mean, I do appreciate, and I still do buy records. I'm more vinyl by something now, but it's nice to have it in your hands. I think.
Indeed.
So that was kind of nice, and I could refamiliarize myself with some of this stuff, but it's nice to have. It's been down there,
You're lucky you have what you have produced, in a tangible form like that, Larz. I in my opinion.
Well, I'm lucky to be in a town that is very supportive and has great musicians. From back to the venues, the bands, the musicians, guys, the recording studios, the engineers, our radio stations, our DJs. How supportive, and what a great place. I mean, this episode basically is, I don't know how we're going to do it, but it's the last 35 years, which is we did the first two episodes were kind of short, and it was just early years and then the Hollywood years. But that's not really anything. Like, the bulk of my stuff is the last 35 years, and that's as a Columbus musician.
There's some extraordinary stories, though, Larz. And it was fun. It was fun to learn that, right, about you. And so, but for this one though, this is you're starting to tee that up, and I hope I'm not interrupting you.
No, please do, because this is the third caffeinated drink I've had, and I'm trying.
You're feeling good.
That one doesn't have caffeine in it, but you've got to offset things.
It's all about balance.
I think it is.
But teeing this one up, this is your life work. This is an important time to talk about. It's an impressive body.
Because I'm old now, and I'm so old that I will look back now. That's how old I am. Like, geez, I'm going to look back. No, I'm still looking forward. And the thing of it is,
you're active.
You don't have time to look back. It's not easy to try to be a professional musician in town. Now, teaching private lessons is, I couldn't do it without that. I enjoy doing it 5 days a week, but you know how it is. I'm just looking at my Google Calendar going, okay, that weekend's off, and nobody's got it blocked out. We need to book that. Like, granted, you need to have some time off, and we all approach it different. Playing too much in the cover scene isn't good either. I know, but there's some of us that do play a lot. You know, like Toast plays a lot, and all of our friends. You know, I can't just go about. There's too many bands.
There's way too many
but you
friends.
know what I'm
there's
saying.
A lot
it's like
that play.
You're
there's
always
a lot of active
for me.
People. Yeah.
I need the money. You know, I do. And so I love it. Don't get me wrong. But
you're a professional musician.
But deciding you're going to take this route, which is definitely not an easy route. That calendar is just. I think about it. You know. Now I got the Google Calendar, but it used to be the old, the old ones where you wrote the stuff in. And while I'm thinking about that, when you wanted to book a gig back then, we had the home phones, and like whoever's in charge of the band, and then if you had an agent, you had to call everyone individually. Can you do this date?
Oh my gosh!
Like that was every.
And wait.
And wait. And they'll be going, oh, I'm not really sure. Well, she kind of needs to know right now, the agent.
Oh, yeah.
And then when you're in multiple bands,
forget about it.
It was, even just two, you'd have so many, what it took, now it's so, thank goodness,
Thank goodness.
I think of Jesse, for one, but which he'll come up, in here, like he's on a lot of stuff that we've worked with, and I'm still teaching at a store, Jesse McNamara. He was the one that dealt with, like, when it was 13 o'clock, he would deal with our agent, who wasn't easy to deal with. And that agent's name's not going to come up here, even when I start telling stories.
Okay.
But I was like, dude, I realize now what it must have been like for you to deal with her, then call all of us, then have her, like, down you if you can do it, and there's no quick way to do it. Like now you just hurry up and text each other, Like you couldn't. You had the home phone situation. You had a message machine. This is just 90s. Well, this isn't like, I'm not, which is a long time ago now, but not for us.
Right.
I mean, this is,
right.
Not forever ago.
It was a big chunk of the meaty part of our lives.
It was right before everything snowballed.
Yes.
Technologically.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Think about what's going to happen over the next 5 years. It's going to blow your mind. But your time. Where do you want to start, Larz?
Where did we leave off last episode? When there was 13 people living in my Hollywood apartment and we had to leave.
Something like that.
As it was. Okay, so that was Blackjack. That incantation was the third vocalist, second guitar player, and Clyde and I, the bassist, were in all the ones that were. So at that point, Lance Matten had come out, and Trick High was the singer, and Clyde and myself, and we packed everything we could fit in a van that we had left in our apartments. 4 people, our gear, us, and by this point we're penniless. Like we slept at a roadside rest a little bit. So that band comes home. We don't have any money. We're from Lancaster, so we literally all moved back in with our parents after living out there. Thanks to our parents for allowing it. And so we came back, and we were already a band. And I think the first 2 gigs, we'd headlined 2 nights at the Al Rosa, and if I'm not mistaken, Petty Theft opened for us.
Now there's a shout outs there too. Right?
Yeah, right. And then, so believe it or not, like there were like 4 or 5 places in Lancaster to play. Mind you, we were just not well behaved at all at this point. You've got guys that have been locked in a room in Hollywood Asylum for a couple years, let loose in Lancaster. We're from there, but by this point, we've grown and, things, it's the 80s. Okay, so it's the 80s. And there's places to play, believe it or not. Like there's 4 or 5 places in Lancaster, and obviously the Al Rosa, and I think we used to play Springfield and Dayton, and that worked for a little bit, and then it just was out of control. And I don't know what happened. We broke up. Trick moved back to Hollywood, and I just needed a break, and I took a break and did a few other things, and then it was like, Clyde and I just played together for so long. And it was like, do you want to try one more time to get this together? So I was like, okay. So my old boy, Steve Theodo, who I grew up with, who, a.k.a. Piggy, is on some of the things we'll talk about later. He was a guitar player, and then it took us forever to audition singers. And we ended up getting Kirby Markham. Kirby had played around town, the Alrosa scene. You know, those Alrosa guys, basically. And that band worked a lot. I took them back out. We recorded an EP, and we went back to Hollywood. I really wanted to take them out there, you know, because the other two hadn't gone. And we'd worked with John Henning, who I'd spoke with before, worked on the REO Live and a bunch of other stuff. And I was like, I really want to take my friends that I've been friends with and played with out there. You know, I called Chuck, and he owned Sound Image Studios in North Hollywood, and he's, are you sure you want to come all the way out? I said, yeah, Chuck, I'm sure. Well, just send a little money up front. And I said, I got to work with John, though. And he's like, that's cool, he's still here. So we went out there and stayed with our friend Corny, someone who I'd put up initially, and then finally, actually someone that got their own place, one of the other people. So he put us up for a week, and yeah, we went there and banged that out, and then came back, and we worked relentlessly. We played the same circuit system Mr. Matt did, basically at that point. You know, all the places anywhere in Columbus, West Side, East Side, South Side, a lot of Alrosa gigs and stuff like that. And so we would sell our cassette at that point at all our shows. And then we do covers too, like old Aerosmith or Guns N' Roses, the dirtier 80s stuff, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it was a lot of fun, but like we play all the time. You know, speak of Lori Dolphin. The Dolphin was a place we'd play on occasion. And that band went really well for a while. And I remember, I think Chatfield was back in the Gods for a moment. And it was like a New Year's Eve gig. And we blackjacked open that gig, and that was so much fun. Sam Kennison had that Wild Thing video with all, like, Joe, everyone was in the video. All the 80s rockers were in that one.
Sure.
And so we got up and we did Wild Thing, us and the Gods, and it was a good time. But, and so we'd play out of town in that band, and we'd play in town. Eventually, it just ran its course. I'm trying to think. I think this would be the first time Clyde and I split up. And there was a bone from Texas that used to come to town now, Alrosa to play, called Bone Circus. And they needed a bass player, and I think Clyde just apparently needed to get away. So he went and joined Bone Circus after that, and we weren't really sure what we were going to do after that. So Steve and I decided we'd start another band, and that band became Jade. And David Adams was, will come up later in this as well. Was the bass player in that, and Joel Robinson, my roommate, who's a brilliant artist, artpusher.net. He does all the horror conventions. He does all the artwork from when they remastered a lot of the Blu-rays. That's him on the front of there. He was a wild art student at the time at CCAD.
How so?
Dude, I'm not kidding.
You can't.
It was okay. It was
Out there?
It was wild days.
Abstract.
Wild. That's all I'm gonna say.
Gotcha.
Could you imagine going to the city center? I remember Joel went up there on skates, and he may or may have not have had something before he went, and he skated all the way down on the skateboard, all those, and came home with just scabs, bloody.
No.
He was a great guy, and then so Steve Piggy was from Blackjack was in there, and Jim Reeses was the other guitar player, and let's see, I think that was it, and then that was a great band, and then I kind of screwed up a little bit, and I will tell you why. I mean, I was writing and stuff, and it was great, and we're all bros. What happened was then I got asked to play in a band that. They were little thugs. So growing up at the Alrosa when you were young, Money, the Gods, and Rosie were the big ones, right? And, you know, ever since I was 18, we opened up for those bands. Well, John Durzo had left Money and the Muff Brothers, and Rosie had split up, so Carl wasn't in Rosie. And they'd started a new band called Little Thug. I think they'd just opened up for Black Crows at the Newport. And they asked me to join the band, and I was starstruck. Now, granted, I knew them, and it opened up for them a bunch, but nonetheless, they were legends in this town. They were like, I mean, it was like, you know.
Yeah.
And I couldn't say no. And in hindsight, I loved playing with them. But Jade went to open up for every major 80s act that came to town after that. like every single one. Yeah. And they were my boys, and shit happens. I guess I knew, I don't know, just I have my own path. It was definitely nothing personal. I just felt like, can I really say no to this? And to be fair, it wasn't money. It wasn't rosy. It was just a project they wanted to do, and it was great, and it was fun playing with it. Scott David, who worked for Gibson in Nashville, go around, and they paid him to, play and endorse stuff, whatever. He ended up going there, but he was the guitar player, and he was living in Springfield and teaching the music store up there at the time. And so, I split, and but we were all good friends. And whenever I had the night off, I'd go see them. They'd let me sit in and stuff. So, I mean, it was that. It wasn't, they didn't lose anything. Scott Martin took my place. So good for Scott. He got a good gig. You owe me, Scott, next time I see you.
Good gig.
I kid. Scott has come out. I just emerged out of the blue to a Fender show when Toast was playing one night. It was great to see him.
That's sweet.
So Little Thugs would do we would play Springfield and Dayton a lot, and Stars Bar on the east side. And QFM 96 used to have a Tuesday nights at East Dallas. And rest in peace, Joe Show. He's going to come up on here later, too. He was the MC. And so East Dallas was huge, and it was over, it's off of Bryce Road over there. And it was a huge...
Columbus, Ohio.
Yeah, it was a huge club. And so that was fun. So we do Tuesdays, and Joe Show would be there in the QF 96 night stuff. And I know we went in with Doug Edwards at one point at Musical and did some of Carl's stuff, but man, I dug through some stuff. That one I couldn't find. It's probably somewhere. But so, yeah. So that went on for a little bit, and then I don't remember what happened. That was it, though. The band was never played after that. It wasn't like it went on with replacements. It just ended for whatever reason. And then Scott and I started a band called Strut and Sammy. I know John said that Homan, Leon his, was talking about. I think he said he, right before they ended, had gotten a cassette to learn some of their songs. After me, it was my brother Jerry was the drummer. And then Michael was the drummer after that. I can't remember his name. Unfortunately, he's no longer with us. He's died of cancer. And speaking of Kirby Markham, by the way, the singer for Blackjack, he's unfortunately not with us anymore either. So a lot of people have gone the last 5-6 years. But,
I'm sorry, man.
So anyway, Strut and Sammy was for Scott and I was Gil Graham was the bass player, and Randy Goen. Randy plays all over the place, like solo and stuff. And I don't know what happened. I know we played Park Avenue, and Scott just said, "I'm going to Nashville." And I was like,
just out of the blue.
And the fit wasn't as good as I thought, and it was a great band. I mean, everyone individually, but it wasn't. So, when he split, I just thought, it was a cover band. Nothing wrong with that, but just wasn't into it. And
right.
And I think this is where your boy Mikey Iannarino enters the picture.
And how did you guys meet? Wow.
So MMS Studio, see, Mike Hockenberry owned it first. It was down off Rich. And then Johnny Boyd took over, and then Johnny moved it to a little bit better section of the Bottoms. It was called, I think it was Relayer Studios. Johnny's a great guy. I love that. But anyway, the one before that, MMS, just a bunch of bands were there, and I just had gone through not a very good time in my life. It was a year where I looked into the abyss and was glad that I came back. But I would just hang out there and rent a room, and I was working on, out of a book called One Surface Learning, which is, it has all kind of different stuff in there, shuffles, sambas, Latin, different stuff. I was just I lived close to there. I lived on Parsons by myself. So I would go down there on Saturdays, and I'd rent a room, and I would just work on not rock stuff, But everyone else was there. I mean, we kind of knew each other, from the Arosa,
sure.
or Park Avenue. And or you go down there on a let's say you didn't have a gig on a Friday or Saturday, and go down there, and it'd be close, but it'd just be a happening place. all these. There was 5 or 6 rooms, I think, somewhere around there, and they'd all be booked with. That was the hub, man, where all the musicians were that weren't out playing, that night or whatever. So I just remember being in there, and Mikey's like, "Hey, man, what are you doing?" Because Mikey was in Bad Reputation.
Yeah.
Well, I was in maybe Strutting Sammy or that whole scene. We were in different stuff, but I didn't known Mikey from Bad Reputation. And he's like, "Hey, man, we need a drummer. Would you?" I'm like, "Sure, man." So we got together. It was different. Like Mikey, I think that was the first time he didn't have a bass. I could be wrong, but in my mind, so he just sung. I feel like that was the first time he didn't have the bass. But Mikey, if it's not, Mikey, he'll let me know. We'll find out somehow on social media that's not the case.
Oh,
hey, Mikey, what's up?
He'll let you know. Listen, I've been trying to get Mike Ignarino to do an episode. Since the time I started talking to you. He's such a busy guy with his son.
Oh, he could, yeah, but he's a great talker.
But his stories are really, really fun and interesting, and he's an animated character.
Oh my gosh!
And him and I together, Mister.
Yeah.
Look out.
Yeah.
It would be a fun. It would be a fun time. It would be a fun.
And that
time.
was the ride, wasn't it? Is that what you guys read?
I know, but there's so much, like yourself, there's so much about Mike in music related with Columbus.
Okay.
That the ride was only
no, I think, but you guys, but
my ride with my time with
your
Mike
ride with him was in the ride?
Was with the band called The Ride. And Mike was one of 3 people that kind of 3 different versions. And he shared fronting with another gentleman.
Wow.
I don't know that he would want me to even talk about him. He's quiet these days, so I'm trying to respect his privacy.
It's all good.
Michael Ignarino, loved brother of mine, and it sounds like you guys had that.
And
that time together.
This is the only cassette, Higginsville Trash. So
wow, the name of the band.
Yeah, and so Darren Lee, I think, does Darren play with Beth in something? They did some gig together.
So you're speaking of Beth Newsom Cronin.
I am.
The love of my life.
Yes.
And I can't say more beautiful things about Beth.
I can't either. No.
Just a wonderful person.
I agree, man.
And so, what were we talking about? See, I'm losing my mind.
Darren Lee. So anyway, Darren Lee, Lovin' Goose.
He's working with Kelly Bowman, and Beth did some recording with Darren's presence in the band. Hybrid Nation.
Okay. I didn't know that till we were hanging out over here, and Beth told me.
And then I know Mike was bugging me about he's trying to get a hold of Darren, and I'm like, I think Darren's working with Kelly, and then I was in the green room with the band at a gig in town, and Darren's like, hey, and we met, and I go, hey, Ignarino's been trying to call you, and he's like, oh, he's like, yeah, he's been leaving me messages. I go, you got to call him back.
He's
like, oh, I think I will. And then boom, they start, and I think they're working together on something else, which is cool.
I saw that. And they're going to dust off these old songs, apparently.
Oh, did you write those, or did they write those?
No, I didn't.
Are you going to drag these guys to court? What's going on?
I know. You know me. I'm just like, usually, I've started a couple bands, but usually, I'm the guy they call and they need somebody, so I come in. So anyway, yeah, that band was different. I went back and listened to this. Like I said, I haven't heard a lot of this stuff I brought over. I just don't sit around and listen to it, But it was fun to do. And I was like, we were really kind of a jammy, funky kind of band. It was like there were different stuff, breakdowns, and songs went on, and the Blitz played. We were on the local show for the Blitz, which a lot of these stuff coming up, they were very good at, supporting bands. The Blitz local show. Oh, you used to actually go in on Sunday to the station, and then I think it turned into a podcast.
That's cool.
The last thing I did, like Mood Shifter, which is one of my later ones, was on the new format that they had there. But yeah, that was the craziest band I've ever been in, ever.
Are you serious?
Oh, I'm serious. Joel and I could raise hell, but these guys, I couldn't keep up with them.
And Mike is included.
And
in
Kevin
that?
Amici was the bass player, by the way. I got to get Kevin in there. So also, Darren Lee has played with Sav, who I ran into last night. Right there he was, standing next to me.
Man, that was really cool.
It was.
He was there.
I hadn't seen him for a while.
Yeah.
We grew up the Alros together. Oh, my God. So
That's cool, man.
Darren played in Nasty Action with Sav as well.
Okay.
And Darren was also in the Gods for a bit. There's been a lot of guitar players in the Gods, and I'm not saying belittling anyone.
It's
but Darren was one of them that was in there
Columbus.
for a bit.
Yeah.
Darren was in it. It's always, we keep on saying how incestuous. But if you play long enough, and you just keep playing, and you're not just the same band in time, you're going to
Evolve.
play with other people that want to play.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So, Park Avenue, we played some out-of-town shows, Freaking Pizza, we played the Newport. But what I remember most is Apollo's. We played Apollo's.
Where was it located?
It's right down off of 11th or I think 11th, right in the heart of campus, man. And it's legendary. Apollo's was legendary, and so we played there every Friday, and it was a Greek, restaurant, but they had bands sometimes. So, man, I think we played for like unlimited euros, unlimited pitchers of beer, and like $100, something like that. But, it was raging down there on the weekends. And so there was two homeless guys. There were a couple homeless guys, the same one that were always out in the alley back there. And we would invite them in, and we would share our beer with them all the time. They just loved it, and they were nice as could be. With that being said, one of the scarier moments in my life, Kevin and I, the bass player, were loading in from the back of Apollo's. And just as I get out of the car, I've got a gun pointed at me. And the guy's this isn't daylight. Okay, this is earlier. It's like summer, so it's not dark real early yet, okay? And a lot of things have happened, but I've never been carjacked. And Kevin was driving, it was his car, but the positioning of the shooter was Kevin ran around the other side of the car and was safe. I, on the other hand, didn't have anywhere to hide. So I ran into Apollo's, and I'll never forget it, the back door. It was, in my mind, it was slow motion, and all I could think of was, I'm going to get shot in the spine and paralyzed. Like, that is all I could think. Like, every step seemed like it was taking me 1,000 minutes to get there.
Oh my
and
gosh.
I'll never forget getting in there without being shot. And I was like, and they ended up catching the
gotta be
dude
kidding
later
me,
down the road somewhere. Yeah, gun was loaded. I need a moment.
I'm taking it.
Just because I need something besides Diet Mountain Dew after that story.
My
Oh yeah,
gosh.
it was. And then the show went on later, and it was like, okay.
Man.
And of course they plea
That's
that
big.
stuff. They don't want to take anything to court. So
Nope.
I get one call. We're gonna plea it down. Okay, bye. That was it. But it didn't matter at that point. I'd lived. They caught him. Look, it's out of my hands at that point. So, while I'm thinking of that, gosh, blackjack. I'm gonna have to backtrack just a second. Michael Hannon, who played in American Dog, and also Salty Dog, who was very popular. He lived in Hollywood. I remember running into him on the Strip. He played with Kirby from Blackjack in a band called Lust before that. And he was home, and it was some East Side apartments, and we were in there partying, and I think we were listening to the Blackjack tape. We just got it done, hanging out with friends, small party. We come outside of there, and there's two dudes leaning against a tree, okay? And apparently they're methed out. And we're mellow, we're going to the car to get whatever, I don't know, something.
Right.
And we get jumped, and they're methed out of their mind, and they're pretty big. So I just about got away, and one of the dudes tackled me and stabbed me. I got about a 6-inch scar on my leg. Yeah.
Dude.
From getting stabbed while I was in that band. Steve got beaten so bad, Piggy, one of his eyes just was, I didn't think they were going to be able to repair it. Kirby got lucky. Somehow he got away. And if it wouldn't have been for the meth head's girlfriends, they actually called the cops quickly. I mean, I was in fear for our life.
Yeah.
Like, seriously, they were nuts, out of their mind. Like, I'd never seen anyone like that before.
It sounds serious.
I've been around meth. I've been around a lot of stuff, but meth was a whole different thing. I didn't even really know about meth back then.
It just was.
And it was crazy, and thank God the cops did get there pretty quick. Or we were on top of a car by that point. Like, literally scared. We didn't have any weapons or anything. One dude, I've already been stabbed. I'm like...
And they're like...
Yeah,
on the
West
roof?
Side Story shit.
Dude,
So we had to go to court,
nasty.
ended up going to court, and then the dudes were like, oh, man, we're sorry. Of course, they weren't methed out by then. It was like, you know what? I don't really, just go sit, take your punishment. Of course you're sorry. This dude's needs like 3 surgeries on his eye. But I needed to circle around back there. Things are going to come and go. I apologize if I have to retread.
Dude,
it's just, I'm...
whatever.
I'm all over the place here.
It's your episode. No, you're not all over the place at all. Higginsville
tragedy.
trash.
And the last thing
Call the trash line.
Call the trash line.
Dude, I love it. I love it. I love it. And Mike Iannarino is in this band.
Yeah.
Singing, fronting the thing.
Yeah. Him and Kevin.
Listen, man.
Him and Kevin, I'd never known anyone that could rage like those two.
Listening to that cassette, that you could just feel the energy of that band.
It was really different.
What a great time.
At a time where all of us had been in hard rock bands, we kind of took a little detour there.
Yeah,
see, right there, it's already starting, as we're going to see as we go along there. Let's not. I don't want to do the same thing all the time. It's boring.
You're in charge, mister. It's your episode.
So...
Where do we go from there? Any more in there?
In the Higginsville days?
Yeah. You know what? If you do a
nothing
search,
I could say.
If you do a search of Higginsville trash on Facebook, a picture shows up, and there's a description.
Is it all of us looking up in the air? Are we looking up like this, all of us, or what is it? I don't know. I don't Google myself, so I have no idea.
No, it's actually there's a place called Higginsville, and there's a whole story from the early 2000s, I think, about pickup day.
Well, this would have been 90.
And I thought it was so 90? Cool that was there.
Okay.
And so that's 90 or something. Yeah.
And I should point out, this was recorded with Mike Gainey at his studio. So I want to make sure to include, everyone that's worked on these things.
How many are still in existence?
I have no idea what it took to dig stuff up. I mean, I do have one main place, but let's face it, there's stuff scattered other places too.
I know, yeah.
Gabe's like, here, what about this? What about this cosi? I'll talk about that one later. But yeah, so I don't know. I think, that could be. It was a good time. It was crazy. It was the craziest year of my life ever in my entire life. That was the craziest year of my life. And it wasn't just them. It was just my life in general. A bunch of stuff happened. We don't need to go into it.
Understood.
But yeah, so I don't know. Let's see. Are we going through stuff? Let's see.
Yes, we are.
There goes the Blackjack disc. The Blackjack Live at the Alrosa DVD.
Really?
Yes. I believe Curtis Ray did this for us. Thanks, Curtis.
There's gold in there, man.
He transferred the old stuff on the digital. He was a huge Alrosa guy and stuff. So, how about that? I know they can't see that, but.
And the year is?
88.
Yeah, and you guys look like 1988.
A lot of hair.
80s rock bands.
A lot of hair. No makeup. No makeup.
And blonde hair.
No spandex. Just
and blonde hair too to beat.
Just blonde again. Isn't that funny? Like after all,
things
it's
have
naturally blonde again.
They have a way to come back.
So let's get rid of those. We got rid of the Higginsville. The next thing I have here is then. After that, I can't remember. It was amicable. There was no hard feelings with that. But stuff just ends. If you're in a high street bands, eventually it just ends. I mean, that's just the cycle of it. I don't care how good you are, whether you're Ronald Cole, Scrawl, bands have been signed to major labels, Hal and Maggie, any of those bands, no matter what, it's just the cycle. I don't know. It just ends, but whatever. Then I had a little thing called Psycho Salsa with the 3-piece with Piggy again from Blackjack and David Adams. And David appears in multiple stuff coming up here.
That music's so cool, man.
David Adams
Oh
is,
my
you know,
God.
Piggy's great. He's a Rap Bastard Syndicate. You know, they do all, him and Pickens play together. And so he's been in a bunch. He was an American Dog also. And then David Adams is just an unbelievable musician. Like, he played bass with a lot of this stuff that I'm going to talk about, but he played guitar. I'm sorry, but even in the later Alrosa days, very popular band. I can't remember because I was doing the Alrosa then, but they were big. Then he was still going, and he decided to play guitar and sing, and he was great at that. He can play drums. We'd do sound check, and I'd let him play. He'd sound great. He played with my younger brother. He's closer to my younger brother's age, and so this was something totally different too. I don't know how to explain it. It was alternative. You heard it.
Yeah.
It had
So cool.
There were some horn parts in it. Sweet Man was on this on some horn here, and then Wolfgang Lontz was on trumpet. This Psycho Salsa Dip Chips Head Trip. We would play. Gosh, where did we play? Chelsea's, Stashes. You know, like the high street circuit, basically. The glory days.
Yeah.
Those great places to play. And I think we played in Lancaster a couple times. I don't know. We played, you know, different places. And this particular one was recorded at Primetime Studio, which was right across from the Alrosa. Tim Reed was the owner of Primetime. Another rest in peace to Tim. Yeah, this band was a lot of fun. I know I've got notes. So far, I think I've done pretty well without going to them, but let's see. I may have to go to them here eventually. Yeah, so, you know, Park Avenue, we played there. Like I said, Chelsea Stashes. Oh, Clancy's Down Under was another high street place down in South High, down close to the German Village. And that was like, there was something up top, and then Clancy's Down Under was there, so. And we play there, and yeah, I don't know, that was a fun band, and it ran its course, and like they do, and
Sweet.
David went on.
Sweet times.
They went on to do. They, you know, still play, and well, I don't think they are right now, but they did till recently. You know, we're always doing something successful in their own little genre and stuff like that. So, and those guys we grew up in Lancaster together. Like, we're long time friends, man. You know, we've done a lot of stuff together. So that was really fun. I'm gonna take a real quick drink here. Got any questions about anything?
No, man. Other than the fact that I thought that music was really, seemed like it was a hot spot of diverse collisions.
Right. There's like a ska song on there.
Yeah.
On the one. And there's ones with horns. It's
Yeah.
kind of got a little bit more.
You can feel the ebb and flow of all.
Well,
those
when I
influences.
got these out and I'm looking at it,
That one.
the next song was Quarantine, and Gabe says, "Oh, you sung on that one." I went, "I did." Like, literally, this is like, I don't remember. And it was kind of I was into Rancid really hard. I still love Rancid. I've seen them multiple times. And so, you know, I was into some of that ska stuff. So that song had a ska vibe, and it was called Quarantine. The reason being, I was about to go to a gig with Steve and some cover band. And I was in my 30s, early 30s. Gabe and I was married, recently married, our first house in Lancaster. And I started getting these red dots. I'm like, what the fuck is this? It turned out, in my 30s, I got chicken pox.
Oh gosh.
So, yeah. So I had to hurry up and make a call. I forget who. I don't remember who filled in for me that time. Someone filled in at the last minute, and so then I couldn't go around anyone the whole time. So I was quarantined. I wrote the song "Quarantine." Not that anybody cares, but I'm just saying.
No, dude,
it's just it's one of the stories, you know,
it's
talking
one
about
that's in
the
there,
songs.
yeah, man.
I'm not much for singing lead. I sing one lead on each of the 13 o'clock discs. And that, I know, other than some backups, I don't remember ever. Other than Biggie talking about singing some John Waite at that first party he came to in Lancaster. What's up, Biggie? You sounded great last night. Dug the band. Hit list. Shout out.
Dude,
what a
it was
good night.
Freaking huge.
What a good night.
That was another part of our weekend.
I know.
Larz.
And I got to get my Kong out for the first time in a while.
Dude, this is our third day together hanging out.
I know
it's
it. That's the reason I didn't come up.
I
didn't pregame yet.
I wouldn't say it was a bender weekend or anything like that. It wasn't anything that radical, but it was a lot of fun and a lot of great music.
No, it's not a bender weekend. Can you hear that? Doctor says it's my nerves.
We're laughing,
dear God!
But, I mean,
what? When I didn't pregame yesterday because I thought I saw you Friday all night. I'm going to see it today, and I'm like, I can't put him through 3 days of this.
No.
It's not going to be fair.
No, we're taking it easy. We're
And
taking it
did
easy.
you texted Beth, and she said, I'm not coming home for a while now that I know Larz is back over there.
Listen, man. She's at band rehearsal. Then she's having drinks
That's what
with
she
the
said.
girls.
Right.
Then I'm having drinks with the girls. I'm like, I go, Larz is coming over at some point. We're on.
Yeah, it kept getting later and later.
We're on musicians.
First, I was going to be here at 4, and then I was
go,
reading a book and couldn't get out of it.
Honestly, dude, just real quick before you, I'm like, I'm hedging. Maybe we're doing it on Monday. What do we got going on?
No, I teach till late during the week. That's why we got to do weekends, man. Like I can't unwind.
So I was like, I just got to check in, man. What do we got going? She's like, not till later in the night.
Yeah, she said she had stuff. Yeah.
So anyway.
Yeah, so it started at 4.
This is a priority for us.
Right. And this is nice
this
because
episode.
I love when other people are here. Like your episode was the most fun ever. And Friday, with Bart and Tammy and Julie Neal and Beth and Rico and Renata, it was great, but it was just, we didn't come back here. We were out like in the party room. And it just went on. And by the time it was like, let's go see Astro Cat instead.
We saw Astro Cat.
We had a blast.
And that was a great time.
Oh,
man.
it is.
They're a fun group. That's a fun band in Columbus.
Oh, yeah.
And I just love it. All 3 of those.
I've known John for, 30-some years. I've played in a couple things with John. John, I did an Elvis-a-thon at Scully's, and we did not weird, but we did we did stuff from, like, Malaguena. We did stuff with Caribbean and Latin influences from his movies instead of doing, regular stuff. And there was horns. It was an epic production, and it was so much fun.
He's involved in so much cool stuff.
And then the Ronald Cole stuff. He'll do the Ronald Cole tribute, so he'll sing, and I played drums on a couple of those. So that at Dick's, Fred from the Digs was on sax. Matt Page, I think he's got a room at Dick's. He's playing tonight. Matt Page's there every Sunday. But yeah, so.
Man. All good.
I'm having a senior moment. Too much stuff is going through my head.
Yeah,
I'm going here and there.
Lane.
But no, with John, I know
it's an
John.
emotional time, man.
Yeah, but I've known John, from Confest days, all the way back to then. And God, he's sounding great again. It's so wonderful. At one point, he was in a scooter. But I'm not going to go into John's. I listen to John's podcast.
Yeah.
I'm not going to re-scoot, but let me just say, it's the best I've seen him physically and playing wise since the Ronald Cole era.
Dude, he's hot.
He's
John Coleman.
I love
right
John.
now
He
is hot.
messages
He's
me
on
every
it.
time I come to see him. He's gracious.
He's on it. Man.
And he sounded phenomenal. But it was always fun. Like I've gotten to work with John, different things,
Right.
like that. And you asked him about Scott Gorsuch earlier.
Yeah. Oh.
I've done. So Scott, I've done the Dolly Parton tribute. Jen Miller, who sings at Dick's, is a jazz girl. I've known her for a long time, and we never got to play together. So she's asked me to do a couple things, which one, it was the Dolly Parton tribute. Jesse McNamara was in it. Scott Gorsuch played bass on one of those. Paul Baker, who teaches at the store, played on the other one. Gosh, Elisa Nichols did backups. Nikki, Wonder Scott's woman, she's been on there. Jen does the lead vocals, and Kathy Wicks was on there. Geesh, I'm believing some. Dylan, who teaches at the store, played guitar one year. I know I'm going to forget somebody. But anyway, so Jen, doing a couple things with Jen. That was at Ramblin' House. And we would always play last. And that was the closest country as I'm going to get. But I love those guys, so I did it. So the other thing with Jen, while we're on Jen, she had asked me to do, which I don't know why she would ask me, honestly. But she'd do the Jen, we'd play Confess on the jazz stage a couple years. The Jen Miller All-Stars or Jen Miller Jazz All-Stars. The joke is it was a Jen Miller All-Stars, Jazz All-Stars, and then Larz Raymond, who was not a Jazz All-Star. But I was very fortunate to play Rhett Burleson. You know, these are Dick Stanley, Epic, just great music. Matt Page, once again. Let's see, Eddie Baird, a great sax player, used to play in town, came in from Chicago. Megan Palmer, you know, whether it's, you know, fiddle or she lived in Nashville a bunch, and she's from here. I do believe she's from here. But she would come to town and play, and it would just be great. But it was like, you know, I would get a chance to step out of... Honestly, I have more jazz at home than anything. Like, every night, like, we go to fire and I go to bed, listen to jazz records till I get too tired to get up and turn the last one over. But, you know, I don't get to play... Swing's coming up. The 13 o'clock stuff was all swing stuff, but jazz, like literal jazz, you know. So I kind of got off the hook, though, because Jen sings, and so it wasn't straight ahead jazz where, you know, you really need to play that more to be on it. So, but yeah, that was great. Just thinking about Jen, I've known her for a long time, and we never got to play together until like before COVID. So got to do a couple of jazz stages of Confess with her, with the jazzing, and then 2 things at the Rambling House with the Dolly Parton thing. So.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm just, you know, I'm kind of feeling like, oh, let me run my resume down. And I've been weird about this episode, okay?
That's all good,
I just,
man.
like, when I played this stuff, it was strange for me to sit and play my shit.
It's emotional, dude.
No, but I don't even listen to it. To come, you know, to bring it over here, I would have been comfortable if it was just us. But with everyone hanging out, I was a little uncomfortable. Just kept putting my stuff on.
That's okay, man.
But it was supposed to be for the podcast.
Yeah, agreed.
So I'm so exhausted. So this is kind of different. You know, the stuff's been off the cuff. But, you know, fuck it. It's my story, right? It's my podcast.
It's your episode, brother.
What the hell?
And it's
I've been fortunate to...
Such a pillared and storied, you know... career.
I'm just trying to go through things.
You know,
it's nice
good.
that we're getting to go back a little bit every once in a while, so it's not like, and then I went here, and then I did this.
Exactly.
I don't want it to come off
It's
that
an
way.
organic
But I can't remember
conversation.
all this. I can't, what is there, 19 CDs over here?
Right.
I can't.
That's a lot of music,
Look,
brother.
I've got to make some notes for that, or I'm trying to involve everybody.
It's a lot.
Like, I'm so fortunate to work with all these people.
Yes.
You know, I mean, it's sorry, Sean. I just knocked Sean Booker's CD off.
She's next.
Hey, Sean, you're coming up.
Listen, we were going through some of this music.
She's not next, but she's coming up soon.
But as we were doing it, Larz, I was texting Sean Booker, who's in Tennessee, touring.
Of course she is.
And she's like, oh my gosh, it's Larz and Gate. She loves you guys, man.
We spent a lot of time. I mean, we hung. You know, we're going to talk about the CD I did with her and the band that I did with her.
Let's do it.
First of all, I got to go somewhere before that.
Oh, I thought you said you'd know. Okay, I thought that
She's
was
soon.
next.
That's coming up soon. So after Psycho Salsa went, I was teaching at Coils, and I met a dude named Wolfgang. He was teaching trumpet and bass. And this was the second Coil location I taught at. This was in Lancaster. And this was a whole different gig, too. Like, Holly played sax and flute and sung. We had Jesse McNamee. This is when I met Jesse. This is the first time I met Jesse. So Jesse was on guitar. Wolfgang was on bass at this time. Wolfgang plays trumpet and shows up later with us, not playing bass, but playing trumpet. And Rob Sager was keyboard. Keith Newton, fantastic sax player. He was a sax player. Aaron Molnar was a sax player in there. I can't remember if we had anybody else. Who am I missing? But it was like a kind of a funk band. And we'd play like the Short North Tavern, the Highback, there was a place called Not Owl's Rockers. It was on High Street. Like I said, at one point I counted 21 places to play from German Village to Clintonville. 21 places. You could just literally live on High Street, up and down it. It was unbelievable. So that's when I first really, after Higginsville Trash, got into that circuit and stayed there for
there's a lot
quite
of work
a while.
there, right?
A lot of work and just so many great musicians.
And look at the stack of music, Lars. 19-ish,
Whatever.
give or take.
Yeah.
That's a lot of music.
It is. And because it was just ripe.
Right.
And if you're willing to work and you enjoy working and you just keep your pedal to the metal, you're going to... And, that was pre-internet. Look, it was word of mouth.
Right.
But High Street was so killer that word of mouth traveled. You know what I mean? Literally, that's how it used to be. Now it's... you like now it's like, oh, you sounded great last night. Back then you were like, oh, I saw so and so, and I hope we sounded good.
7 weeks ago,
it's like that, and so it was a whole different thing. It was word of mouth, but you got out and went like we do now.
Yep.
But it was High Street, and you get out and you would get out there and stuff.
And you could hit a couple in a night, right?
Right. So. With Ludlow's used to be a place we played.
Believe it or not, I've played there.
Yeah, nice.
It was cool.
Parking they started to get real pricky about parking. Remember that?
They
When they
did.
charged the band members, I was not going to have that.
No.
I'm like, this is wrong. These are the horrible things musicians suffer. And I remember playing with...
Let's work on your rider.
No way.
Your rider clause.
And gosh, I remember playing with Shuck and Bubba too. Like the Jesse and I would just be Jesse and I and Sid here. I think their percussion. It was not the deluxe. It was the acoustic. So I would take congas out, and we played all over the place. Tommy Keegan's. There was somewhere next to that. We do a bunch of private parties. Ludlow's. That was fun. That was a whole different. That was the early Shuck and Bubba
Phenomenal.
acoustic stuff. So shout out to Sid here. They were playing next to.
listen
They were
to
right
him.
next to us. They were at the Dirty Oar,
I love Sadiq.
and we were
love him.
right. They were at the Dirty Oar, and we were at what's next door, Papa Boo's. And I ran over them. Saw him. First time I've seen him forever. Lars, we got to get you on stage right away. And I'm just like, we can't. I just ran over here. I got to go back over and play. But that's what it's like. You don't we're all still playing, and you see each other, and if you weren't a dick, then you're still just like, it's like you didn't lose any time. I'm not saying I'm not a dick, but I'm just saying.
No.
People are happy to, they're happy to see, and we all have respect for each other.
Yeah, man. Absolutely.
And so I don't know. This is where I'm just throwing, because I played a lot of random sub gigs, or I did more, quite a few sub gigs with that one, but there's one-offs and stuff and like that. So the Deviate thing was fun, but I do have to say Holly just had her house burned down. And I think there's a go. Holly Freeling. They lost it in the fires. So, as we do in the United States, we have GoFundMe to fix everything. So anyway, there's a GoFundMe for her. Right. And her husband, Chris. I don't know Chris. She's met him. She's been living in California for a long time. But she's great. I loved playing with Holly and stuff and her. So there's a lot of Matt stories on this, like every Matt I can think of.
When you say Matt,
it's just all the Matts
there's a lot of Matts, and I know from the.
So we'll start.
Music Matts.
I mentioned Master Stone. My throat is so dry.
Take a sip. It's a Mountain Dew Diet Zero or whatever that is. It's good for you.
Thanks, Len.
You're welcome.
Since Tiffany's not here to bust me, I'm gonna let you tonight. Hey, Tiff, shout out. So another Matt.
She wanted to be in the peanut gallery. Could make it.
It's fine. It's fine.
Time shift.
Well, it's just kind of nice because I feel like we can get something done. It's already hard enough when we pregame. When you pregame with 15 people, it's like Friday. Was that the first time? And then probably it just. Had that ever happened before?
It was purposed. The peanut gallery is
where we just didn't get the podcast.
That was a first. That was a first.
I like being first, no matter how horrible it is or whatever it happens.
You are the first,
right? So
you're always going to be the first.
So when Jesse left Deviate, Matt Venus was his replacement. You know Matt?
I know. Yes, and
He plays with Ben Neal.
He does in the band Long Play currently,
Yes.
but also he did a set with the Liquor Talking with Beth. Beth performs in that band with Sistone. So Venus did.
He wasn't playing the time we went and saw him.
He was not.
Keith Fields was on guitar
Correct.
that day.
And it took.
Keith is married.
It took the strength of others of the caliber of a Matt Venus and a Grant Gilkey and others. To split up the work of Keith Fields covering all that book of work.
Right. He sounded great, too.
Everybody, all of those guys sound fantastic.
So Keith Fields is married to Piggy, Steve Theotto's first wife.
Interesting.
You see what, even this, like even,
Music.
we're not even like, now we're talking marriages and we know people, right? This is how
it's
like.
music in Columbus through everybody's ears.
Thinking of Matt's, I just want to get him out of the way now. So Matt Mason's story was great. Matt talked about Jimmy Casto. Jimmy is is probably my most influential local icon of all time. Like we all looked up to Jimmy Casto,
That's a statement.
Jimmy's a great guy.
And what did Jimmy do?
Drummer.
Men
of Leisure. So when I was in Welfare Gypsy with Sean, we played a lot by ourselves, but we played Ruby's every Thursday. And it would be us and Men of Leisure, the two of us. And oh my gosh, John Bursler on guitar. Sweeney from Hookah would play most of those gigs. Joe Crump, fantastic. I mean, Gabe and I used to go to Bernie's, or the Distillery, which, was the first place I played with Deviate. I didn't mention that. So my first gig with Deviate was at Bernie's, actually. So while I'm talking about Bernie's, what was I saying? Where were we? Which band?
There's a couple that you've been talking about.
We were on Matt's.
Yes.
It's late, I'm sorry.
It's all right.
So we'll just go. There's so many Matts, like Venus, okay, then I said Sistone. But I played a gig with Matt Sistone and Matt Bradley, a wedding gig once. And then...
The Matts and Larz.
And, yeah. And, I was talking about Matt Mason. Matt and I came up together. He's a great drummer. I love Matt.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, so... let's see, what other Matts have I played with? Let's see.
Matts.
What other Matts have you had on here? I'm gonna quiz you.
Oh, geez. There's a lot of Matts.
We went Bradley.
Matt Mikowski.
Okay, that's Matt. So I played with Matt and Mikowski as well.
Okay, here.
And before I say that, Brian Lucy, who mastered in LA's Grammys, David Lynch just passed. He's done some of his movies. He's fantastic. He was in a band called Nude, which Matt brought up, with Matt Mikowski and Jimmy Casto. And they had another drummer, too. They had two drummers.
Oh, man.
So before Brian was, like, a Hollywood star, he was playing, Ruby's and places like that with Mikowski. I think that's when I met Matt and Jimmy. I'd already known Jimmy. But that was a good band. So that was Brian in there, too. But when I played with Matt, it was with the Bastard Sons of Neptune.
You played in that band?
So, okay. They did the Tiki Hula Hop thing was super cool downtown. It was all like, and I'd played there with the Digs as well before, but they were having drummer problems, and so I filled in for them. And it was Greg Sharp. Greg teaches at the store. Yep. Plays in the Soul and Fire with Bart's in that band as well now.
When you say the store, what are you saying?
Music Royale.
In?
Powell, Jesse McNamara, who's on a bunch of these stories.
Powell, Ohio.
My boy Jesse.
Yes.
Yeah, he owns that. It's one of the top
Shout
100 independent music stores in the world by NAMM every single year. Come up. Need lessons? I teach there. Need to buy something? We got it.
Beautiful.
Okay. I did that gig, and let's see. I'm missing somebody. Oh, Billy.
Billy Spitfire.
Yeah, so it was Billy, myself, Mikowski, and Greg Sharp. I had one rehearsal with that band. That was the year that everyone needed a drummer. And I will tell you, I'm not above any sort of cheating going into a gig that I don't know that well. They were all surf songs. And I'm familiar with them because Third Degree plays some, the Diggs have played some. But there's no vocals in a bunch. And some of them kind of sound the same. And so I'm on the spot, and it's crowded and it's outside, but they're messing with pedals and stuff. So here's something I'd never done before, and this was the beauty of Spotify. I hate Spotify, but just let me say. For this, it worked out. Like, I loaded the songs up in order, and in between songs, because Mikowski's was, like, I found out, hey, Matt, now this is not a bad thing, what I was going to say. The one rehearsal I had, he was such a stickler for tempo, right? I had one rehearsal, and Matt was, it was the tempo.
Oh, yeah.
Guy. And so I thought, you know what I'm going to do? So I queued all of my little playlist of all the songs, and I had it on a music stand, kind of hidden so you couldn't see it. And while they changed their effects real quick or whatever and spoke to the crowd, I hit the next song, the first measure, and I turned it off, and I heard the tempo, and I'd click us in. Like, there's different ways to do things. I'd cool. Never done that. That's the only time I've ever done that. I love those guys. It was surf. A great, yeah. That one. Well, you know the Bastard Sons. You've
I
seen
do.
Them, right?
Oh, I've seen plenty of shows.
They had asked. Greg had asked me to be fair, 2 or 3 times to join, but at that point there was no way I could squeeze it in. They're great though, guys. It was a lot of fun playing with them.
I haven't seen them in a long time though.
I know.
It's hit or miss with them.
I don't know what's going on with them. Greg just came up to Roops.
Greg
lives in Delaware, and that's the only place that's still a fireplace. So Greg came to see us in Third Degree. I don't know. We played the very last weekend of December. That's when between Christmas and New Year's, and Greg came out to that. But I mean, I see him at the store, but still. But so this came down to all the Matt. I feel like I hit all the Matts: Matt Mace, Matt Venus, Matt Bradley, Matt Sistone, Matt Mikowski.
Beautiful.
It's a lot of Matts.
That's a lot of Matts.
A lot of Matts to be fortunate enough to play with.
And there'll be more in the future.
I don't know.
If I'm a betting man, I'm saying, yeah.
You got any Matt stories? Matt was just here for Sistone was here. Yeah. Now if I say Matt, it's like, really, which one?
I currently take lessons from Matt Sistone in
right on
bass guitar.
Okay.
But I've known Matt a number of years. I have a lot of Matt Sistone stories. I have a lot of respect for Matt Sistone. He's a master of his craft, and he does a lot to help musicians and bands, and just a whole lot going on there. But I've privately jammed with Matt Bradley.
Okay.
A couple of times, mostly during COVID, believe it or not.
Right.
Private resident studios.
Yeah, we did. Yeah,
kind of thing.
We did those live streams. Toast did one for my house, and so did Third Degree.
Yep.
Those were frightening times, guys.
Yeah, they were. They really were. Everybody social distance, but we got together and we played music. I was really sick though at the time.
You?
Before the COVID stuff though, I had to have some medical issues that amplified. Over the course of the last 8 years, which is kind of weird. But anyway, so I wasn't my best, with those interactions, but I really enjoyed the private jams.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Other Matts, there's a lot of Matts. But
that's a lot of them.
I'm going to stay in my lane, Larz. I'm staying in my lane, dude. I'm going to turn this back to you.
Listen,
dude.
man. I'm not gonna give it to you like you did to me on your podcast.
Dude, you're breaking my heart, bro. We're good there, right?
I was used to being like,
But we're good there, right?
No.
It was
way
all
good.
In jest.
I was excited because we both bought Rush. It was our first album. I just got excited.
I got excited too.
I know.
But we're the same age, and why was mine the first one and yours was like the third one?
I don't know. That and the first Black Sabbath. That and the first Black Sabbath were my 2 first records.
Oh, see, I wasn't that far.
And I had a GE, those little plastic General Electric. Kiss was not far behind.
It was all in the 70s, mid-70s.
It was, Detroit Rock City, like the one where you have the car, the beginning, but the car and everything.
Yeah, love that
God. I was like, how young could I have been? It was my first, I had a Mustang bed cover.
You were
in my first bedroom. I had to be
You were
like 6th
13.
grade.
You were 13.
I don't remember how old I was.
12 or 13.
It was young. It was when I'd had like so many 45s.
Me
I had,
too.
and they were just stuffed and coming out of those. Remember those spiral little things where the lid's shut and you would put them on? I got those back from my mom's not long ago. I was going through them all. It was great. All my old 45s. But, you know, and then it got to the point where it was LPs. And like I said, Caress the Steel was the first one in them, I think. The first Sabbath was after that. And Geezer Butler. And there was just these little plastic G speakers. And Butler's bass would just rattle the shit out of them. You know what I'm saying?
I don't doubt it. And I wouldn't challenge. You know, anything about that. So those were the days.
They were. Well, this keeps falling on the floor, and I feel like Sean's wanting me to talk about this. So, real quickly, though, I think I might have mentioned this before, but between Deviate and Welfare Gypsy with Sean, I did a quick cover band thing with DS Fusion. It was the last incantation. After Fusion, then DS Fusion. Lance Ellison, who last night played in Utopia, was my roommate.
Damn.
We went to Anchorage. We played 6 weeks in Anchorage, and Lance was my roommate. And Carl Sheeler from Rosie was on bass.
Are you kidding me?
And Kaplan was singing. Ken was singing.
Damn, dude.
And it was so weird, like, for Carl not to be fronting a band and playing bass. And he sung backups, and, you know. And Ken even sung, like, I think Ken sung the Rosie song and not Carl. If I'm not mistaken, Under Control. I had to throw that in there, though. That was a good time.
That's a moment.
And that was good.
Music.
And Lance is a great guitar player. I'd play with when I went to gig and I dragged my percussion out with Jennifer Fletch, and the Bellis brothers, John and Bob, fantastic. Were the rhythm section, and then Lance sometimes would be playing, and if not, Andy Harrison would be the guitar player. Everyone knows Andy, and there's more stories with Andy later.
Well, I'm sure there are.
Anyhow, I just wanted to dip there real quick. And then I'd already known Wolfgang from Deviate, and he was in Welfare Gypsy. So he brought me in there. Sean Booker, great vocalist. Sean's great. Louis Wexler was the main songwriter. Let's see. Chris Scrobot, who's been in Austin playing with Pat Green, he's another one that's got some Grammys, country guy. He taught with me, and Chris Allen. I'm trying to think who else was in there. I think that might be it. And I got in there, and after I played drum set, I didn't want to. I wanted to play percussion. I'd gone to Berkeley for the summer, and they have an intensified Afro-Cuban, you know, I loved Santana and stuff like that. And so I went up there, and it was 12-hour days. Gabe went with me. Guys in Santana, studied with them, and some other people, and I was really wanting to not just play drum set. So I got asked to play drum set in that band. But as soon as I did, there's the CD for that one. WG, not welfare like getting welfare, but for the welfare of mankind. Yes. Welfare Gypsy. That was Sean's thing, so that was misconstrued sometimes. And
figures.
Yeah, so we started at my house for rehearsals in Lancaster, but then we just used Bourbon Street every Tuesday. We just used it at a rehearsal.
Man.
And we played Counterfeit Heist a bunch. Wolfgang actually mixed that disc right there. I played percussion on that. Dean DeShetler came in, and I did the same thing with Deviate. I started with Deviate. I came in on drum set and then wanted to play percussion. And so Dean came in and played drums. Go to Welfare Gypsy later. I get hired on drum set. I want to play percussion. Dean comes in again and plays kit. So it's nice. We have a little, thing going there now. And, the Counterfeit Heist where Ace of Cups is was a great place to play. A great place to play. And we'd play there, and we'd do Ruby's Tuesdays. We did Bourbon Street. Gosh, where else did we play? I don't know, the Highback maybe. I know we played in Buffalo. Lou's, rest in peace. Lou's gone now too.
Oh man.
There's another CD over here. This is hilarious. I'll mention it real quickly next. But that was a fun band. It was a lot of fun playing with Sean, and that band, it went for a while, and I was trying to juggle that with 13 O'Clock's coming up here shortly, and when I said 2 bands, I was in Welfare Gypsy at the same time. I was in 13 O'Clock in both bands, so
Two very
now you're
different.
two very different bands.
Yes.
But I was kind of doing double duty, so that made Jesse's job that much harder because then I had this other band. I was also so the phone calls were racking up. But give him credit, and eventually, so what happened was with that, 13 O'Clock ended up just taking off, and I couldn't do both anymore. And that's, I think Jordan, I can't think of his last name, came in and took my place, and that was that was no hard feelings at all in that. We're all still friends.
Sure.
It was great, so. But yeah, shout out to Sean, and rest in peace, Lou. He was a case. As you guys can't see CDs, but he's by railroad tracks with no shirt on. It's called Looking for Aliens. So this is Lou doing this after. This was a little while ago.
What year-ish?
He just called me up. I remember going into Sonic Lounge and taking my percussion in there late at night and laying out some bossa nova stuff. It was a song called Don Corleone I played on. But so the Welfare Gypsy thing, I just want to just touch on this because it's Lou who was the main songwriter in the Welfare Gypsies. This is called Looking for Aliens, and he recorded it over at Sonic Lounge. And Lou was a character, man, but he had some top-notch musicians. I'd mentioned I'd mentioned Megan Palmer from Jen Mills Jazz All-Stars.
Gosh, yeah.
Molly Pauken plays with John Schwab and Siren. She's just great at everything. She's a great drummer too. She'll post every once in a while.
Born to do all that.
I'm trying to see who all. See, I was just hired for this one. I wasn't actually in the band. It was his project. Sean's on this. Booker's on this as well. And let's see who else. Megan, Brian, Jordan Lynch. That's who ended up taking my place in Welfare Gypsy. It had just a lot of different people on here that was top notch. So that was just a quick shout out to Lou. He was a nut job. He was just a great guy though, and a real funny story I'll tell because it's nothing bad. We went to Buffalo to play, and Sean and Gabe and I rode together, and Sean's significant other at the time, and Lou's just an old hippie. So like I love all the beat writers, Kerouac, Ginsberg, all those guys. And I went to City Lights bookstore, and Lou told me a story when I got back. This is way after I'd been out of the band. He had lived across the street because he was a total San Francisco hippie during the day. He said they would buy these huge bags of rice and just live on rice for months on end. Just to give you a picture of Lou, okay? Dad was a successful lawyer, lived in Bexley. Lou, absolute hippie, funny, good. So when we played in Buffalo, they decided they wanted to go to Niagara Falls. I'm not with them. I'm with Sean, and we stopped at her mom's house in Cleveland. Apparently, Lou's got a bunch of weed. It's legal now, so and like, this is Lou, and he gets nervous because they want to go visit Niagara Falls.
Sure.
So Lou eats.
Go over the border.
Lou eats all the weed he's got on him.
Jeez.
And like he played acoustic and sung lead and backups. And he was just a character. Like he was no shoot cowboy, but you never know what you were gonna get. Like really just eccentric. So we're playing someplace in downtown Buffalo, right across from the original BW3, like catacorner from the original BW3.
Sure.
I didn't know this at the time. They told me like later. We all stayed like at some, I don't know, hotel. A bunch of us did it, and they were like, "Man, Lou ate like all the weed before we got over there." And all I could think of was the whole time we're on stage, he's just grinning and strumming that guitar. And I was like, "Man, Lou was so happy to be here." And then I heard, well, yeah, I don't know how much he ingested, but it was enough that he didn't mess the songs up, but he had a class. I had to shout to Lou, love Lou, and I think I only played on like one or two songs on that. So, but I wanted to give him a shout out.
It's cool
for that. How we doing on time? How long have we been listening to me talk about myself?
We're coming up on an hour and a half. Is it a good breaking point?
This has been
Part 1?
fantastic. Yes, because we're coming up on 13 o'clock,
Okay.
and that's two CDs and lots of states, and there's
Lots of
that's a
shout
whole
outs.
that thing goes down so many corridors. That is the chunk of all of this stuff. Is the biggest chunk is 13 o'clock. So I think what I'll do is that went quick.
It's
Holy-
amazing how fast time flies.
Well, you pitching in, you're just such a natural, and they're just going to remember how great your voice was. They're not going to remember my story at all.
That's not true at all, man.
That was Tiff, remember?
Come on.
That was quoting Tiff.
I know, man.
Was that Tiff?
It was Tiffany.
Okay.
Tiffany was so proud of her episode, and the only comment she got was the guy's voice was pretty cool. So I don't know, man.
Well,
she's got great stories.
Yeah, she was.
So what do we
so
do? We
much
call
fun.
this 101A, and then we're going to do a 101B? Or do you
I
want
think-
to wait? What do you want to do?
I think we're good. I don't think anyone, they're like, if anyone, first of all, they're probably like, not this guy again.
That's not true, man.
That's all I can think of. That's why I was all stressed
Not true.
out.
There's a lot.
I'm like,
There's
oh my
so
gosh.
much good music, dude. The thing is, I'd like for people to be able to get to your music.
Right.
You
Well,
know?
like I said, I pulled the vault out.
gotta-
I emptied the
did.
vault,
You did.
and I don't want to hash out too much time on any of it. But once again, this is my story.
I
but
say, let's
but
keep going. Let's just keep going.
No, I don't think so.
Why?
I think we could, because it's just too long. It's just, nah, man. Look at this.
So let's cover all this. It's good stuff, but let's cover it. But you want to do 101 and 102? You want to do 101A and then 101B?
However you want to label it. Yeah, This has been, it's been great. I had no idea. I
High
thought I'll
Street,
try to
man.
get through this. But there's so many
so
people,
much,
wonderful
brother.
people I've worked with, and the
know.
clubs I've worked with, and the radio stations. I mean, I remember Higginsville Trash we did something outside. I mean, Ronnie was there. Ronnie Hunter from the Blitz was there. And it was someone from here that went on to be a big-time wrestler. And we were out in the parking lot somewhere. I don't remember where. And we're playing, and like this big-time wrestler's emceeing, and Ronnie Hunter's there. And like the Blitz has just been, and I'd mentioned Joe Show. There's way more QFM stuff coming up later on. And there's more Blitz stuff too. A lot of great QFM stuff, but it's just later on, and it's too much. I didn't know how long
We don't know.
this
when
would
we
be
start,
here. I
man.
just figured we'd not worry about, like you said, we wouldn't worry if it's one episode or two.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't want to
no-
go on
there's
a
no-
3-hour rant. I just don't want to do it.
Yeah, that's cool.
I don't.
man.
I wouldn't. Nobody wants
So-
to hear that.
So we're gonna say this is episode 101. Larz Raymond, High Street,
Stabbings,
High Street,
carjackings,
High Street
Apollos.
music.
Got it.
Music years of the 90s. Sounds like the 90s and beyond, right?
Newport promo. I mean,
Good stuff, brother.
we haven't got to the promo West gigs yet.
Well, we're gonna get there.
Yeah,
man. So
Newport,
let's.
right.
So you know what? High Street Part 1, and then we're gonna continue recording, but that'll be episode number 102. Stay tuned. Larz Raymond.
Love you, Len. Thanks for having me, man.
Thanks for listening. Bye bye.